you have, please introduce yourself and indicate if you're with an organization, which organization you're with, sir.
Yeah, hi. My name is Bill Calley. I'm with the Unemployed Workers Action Group. I'm one of those folks who are with the so-called 99ers, the abstract individual, who's also obviously graying as well.
Hold for 1 second. If you just come in, there's a couple of seats over here if you'd like.
Oh, no, she's bringing a seat.
Okay, no problem.
I'd like to, we are, as a group, Sam Talbert is a member of the group as well. We are organizing a panel at the Left Forum, hopefully for Saturday the 19th, March 19th, specifically on organizing the unemployed. We plan on having a couple of leaders across the country talk about their efforts. We, as a group, over the last 6 months or so, have put on a number of demonstration and street theater actions to try and make us more tangible and less invisible to the general public. So please look for us on the conference schedule. We'd be very happy to have you.
Hey everyone, I'm Harrison McGee. I'm here with Left Labor Youth and the project and myself and the unemployed as well, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Fletcher, for coming, because this is an exciting day, first of all, an exciting time, and it's especially, I guess, vindicating to know that it's exciting for you as well, and for people who have a precedent, who have seen it before, because for a lot of younger people, this is kind of our first deployment into the activism that we do, into what we care about, and to know that there's something more than just what we're excited for. But after today and today's rally at City Hall, I can kind of maybe sleep at night tonight, and just to see what we saw in the public sector, with the public sector showing up today, and with support from the private sector showing up today at City Hall, that we really saw ourselves as the guardians of the public space, like you said. And I'm curious to know what, as members of the public sector unions here, I'm sorry?
How many people were there? Just tell us the word.
Like 700 today?
How many? Oh, a lot.
At least 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see so many familiar faces that from the rally alone I've never seen before. Christine was on WMIC earlier. And I'm curious to know how, as members or employers and as workers in the public sector, which Sister Faye Moore said at one of our meetings, this is really attack on the public sector, is an attack against African Americans, an attack against African American women in so many cases. How, as guardians not just of the public space, but also guardians of political policy, of the ideals that we administer to the city, our social services, our transportation, our infrastructure, as the guardians of that, how public sector union members and unions can bring race into the conversation and implement it. When you say that child service workers are getting cut, and I'm saying this is as far, if I were a public sector, or if I were the child services union leader, I would not want a union of child protected workers. I would want to live in a city where that wasn't necessary. And I don't know how looking at the immediate demand for jobs and for employment can be sort of worked into a greater picture, or a greater demand for a city where these things aren't necessary, a more just city.
Why don't we take a few questions?
Guy in the back.
Steve Lieberstein, Professional Staff Congress. I want to thank Brother Fletcher for his very incisive remarks today. You mentioned Indianapolis Central Labor Council as having a particular...
Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne, I'm sorry. And I don't know anything about it, so when you do answer questions, could you talk a little bit about that? Okay, so thank you.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Juliette Uccelli, member of UFT and of Freedom Road, and I have a thought related to the calls for organizing that Bill was kind of saying, which is, I work in a high school in the Bronx, one of the poorest large counties in the country, right? And where you really see over the years the effects of unemployment on parents who used to have stable jobs, who no longer have stable jobs, to the point where young people actually will say, when you talk to them about graduating, they'll actually say, what's the point of graduating? There's no jobs out there. Why think about college? I could never afford it. What's the point, And so it brings to my head the thought of possibilities of organizing among youth, either church-based or organizations that have roots in communities of color and that sometimes in the past have had youth wings. I'm thinking of groups like Aspira, something like that, groups that organize in the project, because this it is very devastating for youth to the point of that kind of hopelessness that's actually making kids do worse in school even now and lessening their chances.
Yeah, go ahead. And yourself.
I'm Charles Lenchner with the Job Party and Organization Hill. Don't worry, it's not a base building party.
And what?
I think that among the unemployed, you will find people who used to work for nonprofits that do social justice work, and former union staff, and former rank and file activists, and people who work in foundations. And these unemployed people were in a very good position to suggest to the organizations they're part of, hey, what are we doing, to fight for people like me who just got laid off? And for 2.5 years now, whatever those institutions are, by and large have been making, thousands of individual decisions to not respond to that crisis. So leaving aside people with purse strings who decide not to fund a large project, I'm having trouble understanding all those thousands of decisions around the country with tons of organizations who have also been making a decision not to work with the unemployed. Maybe you could give some insight into the dynamics that led to that.
Okay, one more.
My name's Freddie. I'm also a member of Freedom Road Socialist Organization. I'm also a member of Local 79 La Una, which is actually in the private sector. And that's actually one of my questions was going to be, particularly in my union meetings, I hear a lot of actually people, and there's this division in our union where people are actually, one of the, Cuomo, one of his biggest contributors was a contractor in New York City who does union contracting.
Non-union.
No, union. This is the thing. And there are some people in our union that have sort of this collaborationist attitude with people in there, and they are blaming the public sector unions. And so there is this distinctual split. And it is somewhat troubling since our union at the last May Day at Foley Square brought up a lot of people.
Yep.
It was very supportive. It brings out a large Ecuadorian immigrant base. One of the things I think we're sort of lacking, I think, in a lot of labor work throughout the country is really sort of a private sector strategy in developing union density. I think it's right now 7%. My union is the biggest construction workers union throughout the country. We have 20% unemployment, and everywhere else is like 50% unemployment. So I mean, it's a huge part of it. I just want to know what your thoughts of it were. Thanks.